Hi guys, my name is Ashley and welcome to my channel. So I'm going to be doing something a little different. I've never recorded a story time type of video, but I really wanted to take the time to do this type of video only because it is Lyme's Disease Awareness Month and I do have Lyme's disease. This is not something that I have told a lot of people. Just my family and close friends even know that I have this disease. I've been really reluctant to make this video, but I wanted to do that because I feel that it could help someone else, and I didn't want to turn my channel into a Lyme disease channel. I do a lot of beauty, health, and I kind of didn't want to take the attention away from that, but I thought about it and I feel that that's what makes me who I am. So I felt that it was important for me to be genuine with my audience and actually talk about real personal issues that I am going through that makes me me. So this is really impromptu, so I'm a little nervous. I've always have a script and I like to kind of be behind the camera and talk. But yes, I need to do this. I need to get it out. So just to give you a little bit of background about me. So I am 27. I am a nutritionist. I work for a weight loss center. So yeah, that's kind of my career. I also do fashion and that kind of as a hobby here on YouTube. But yes, so the Lyme's disease. So I do have Lyme's disease, as I've repeated a couple times. But so as you're wondering, what is Lyme's disease? So I am going to actually get the CDC definition of what Lyme's disease is, because I want to be as accurate as I can be on that. So okay. So Lyme's disease is a tick-borne illness caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi. I think I said that correctly. I can't even pronounce it. I know that we just call that Lyme's in general. It is caused by a tick bite. So you're kind of wondering, okay, a lot of people are bit by ticks. It is not every type of tick. It is a special tick. There are different forms of ticks that could carry the Lyme's disease bacteria. It just so happened that I was bit by a sick tick. And it was just really strange for me because I'm not an outdoorsy person. It just happened, I think we were grilling out one day and I was bit by a tick, just a family cookout, and like everyone else, I saw the tick and my mom got some tweezers and she pulled it off and we threw it away, and that was kind of it. Lyme's disease, there wasn't a lot of information about Lyme's disease during that time. It was about 5 years ago. There were some studies published talking about the bullseye rash that you could get. So in my case, I did not get a bullseye rash. So I just want to give you a little bit of background about my story and how I even found out that I had Lyme's disease in the first place. So I got bit by the tick. I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't get a bullseye rash. I kind of didn't think any more about it, and we didn't get the tick tested, which is what a lot of people should do. That's the proper way. But again, it wasn't very prevalent. A lot of people didn't talk about it. There wasn't a lot of information about it. So I didn't know to take those proper measures to make sure that I wasn't bit by an infected tick. So I moved on. I didn't have any symptoms. So years later, after I was bit by the tick, I think this was 2011. I started exhibiting some symptoms. I had first, it was the summer before I started college at UNC. This was my freshman year at that university. I had done another year at another university, but this was my first year. I transferred from community college to this school, and it was the summer before I started. I noticed that I had a light spot on my skin. So just it's common being an African American or someone of a darker complexion, we get hyperpigmentation, and it's just common for that type of thing to happen. So I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So then it went from one spot on my right arm to about 3 spots on my right arm to about 4, 5, 20 light spots on my arm. So that's when I got concerned, because that didn't seem normal, and it wasn't complete loss of pigment, it was more so lightening of pigment. So I knew it wasn't vitiligo or anything like that. So I went to see my dermatologist, and she got a couple skin biopsies, and they were light spots and also some scaly spots. So she got, sorry to be TMI, but she took samples of the light spot and the scaly spot. So they took just a layer off of the top layer and kind of under the skin, the epidermis, and she took it to Duke University to get it tested. So again, I didn't get very many answers. They tested it. They saw a little bit of abnormal features about the cells or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor. I don't know, but something looked odd. They just thought that it was a reaction to an allergy. I went to an allergist, and I wasn't allergic really to anything except for pineapples. So, and that didn't cause a skin reaction for me. So they just said, okay, it may not be exhibiting on the test, so try to go without gluten for a while. So that's when I started to get on a gluten-free diet, and I did notice my skin to get a little better, but it did not 100% clear up. So it went from my right arm, and then it started to spread to my left arm. It started to spread to my legs, and basically my whole body was covered with light spots at this point. So since they didn't have any answers for me, I kind of just accepted the fact that I was just going to be a cheetah. I was a cheetah, and I just accepted that, because everything we tried, topical ointments, I tried the gluten-free, I even tried tanning beds, light treatment therapy, laying in the sun, nothing seemed to help. So I just kind of thought my body's just doing something odd, and I moved on from there. So that's when I started school. My first semester at UNC, I was in my dietetics program at that point. So it got a little stressful. It was my first year actually being in my major classes. I was taking a lot of science courses at that point. It did get a little stressful. So I noticed I started to have other symptoms that seemed a little odd for me. I started to have drenching night sweats. I started to have joint pain, like really bad joint pain in my shoulders and my knees. I also started to have tremors in my hands, and then I started to notice burning in my muscles. And the way I noticed that was I was taking a muscle training class, a weight training class, and just by lifting light objects, like it was a weight ball that we would pass back and forth to the next person, my arms would be on fire to where I felt like I couldn't move them. Like little small movements, I started to build like tons of lactic acid in my muscles, and I was just wiped out to the point where I just couldn't come to class anymore. So that was another thing that was odd for me, because I've always been a very active person. I played tennis, and I played a lot of other sports, and I never had any issues with my muscles doing that. So that was definitely odd. Hate to be graphic, but I started to have like chronic urinary tract infections and weight loss. I'm already a thin person, but I just kind of noticed that I was losing weight a little more than normal because I'm eating tons of food. I mean, I'm on a meal plan. All the food is free, so I ate, so there was no reason for me to be losing weight. So, sorry, my ring light is reflecting off of my glasses. Okay, I'm gonna take these off. So yeah, then I told my mom, I was like, Mom, something's up. I think I need to go to a doctor. At this point, I got on academic probation at school because my grades weren't doing great because I was having headaches and I was just sick all the time. I would get like a cold, and then 2 weeks later I would get a cold, like again, like back to back to back. So that's when we went to a doctor and I got all the lab work, just the basic lab panel. And my doctor didn't find anything odd. He thought that I was having those symptoms due to stress, and he just couldn't pinpoint and connect all my different symptoms together. So he kind of just gave me a general thing, anxiety. So he prescribed me for anxiety medication, which I did not want to take. I was already taking Adderall for attention deficit disorder, which I had since a child. But I did not want to take any more medication. So I tried it and it made my brain feel like it was swollen, and I never took it again. So I just knew that anxiety was not my problem for my symptoms and my physical symptoms. I just didn't believe that, only because I had taken stressful courses before and I never had those types of symptoms. My body never reacted to stress like that. And my stress was coming after the symptoms, not the cause, which is, I don't think he understood that it was not what was causing, it was an after effect of something else. So that was just another thing I had to accept, that I was having those symptoms. So I continued to kind of move on again. I put it on the back burner. I didn't think more about it. I trusted my doctor. I thought that he knew what he was doing. If nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. So I didn't think any more about it. So I went ahead and continued school. That's around the time that I was dating my boyfriend. Well, he's my husband now. So I moved back to Virginia at that point from UNC to be closer to him, and just so that we were living together and we were both in school at that point. So I ended up finishing my program at Virginia State, and I did get my bachelor's, and even through all of that, and then I got engaged. It was actually at my graduation party. So then I kept going with my career, and I got my first big job working as a dietary manager right after school. It was pretty big for me. It was the first time I ever made, that amount of money. My first job making $50,000, that was a lot for me. So it was a really big thing, and I was excited about that. So with the type of work I did, it was, again, another stressful situation. I had to wear a lot of hats. It was a pretty big responsibility, especially for, someone who had never been in this type of role. And again, my symptoms started to flare up, and they actually got the worst they've ever been, so much to the point where I knew something was wrong. So my symptoms came back, and then also with some other debilitating ones. I started to have tremors in my hands again, pretty badly at this point, to where I couldn't even hold a pencil without me doing this, and it kind of altered my handwriting. I also started to have really bad muscle weakness. So that was the most debilitating symptom I feel that I got yet in my disease. So I was working quite a lot of hours at this point. I was working about 50 hours a week, and I just hit a wall. It got to the point where I was having trouble going up the steps. I could no longer take the steps because the muscles in my legs were so weak. I started having really bad weakness in my arms. I couldn't lift like light things or clamp them with my hands. Like my grip was loose, and it would kind of I would drop glasses, and I kind of worked in a kitchen, so I had to be very careful. So that made my job really, really hard at that point. So it got to the point where I had to quit my job. I had to quit my job. It was becoming too much, and I was almost getting to a point where I couldn't walk. So I knew something was wrong, and that's when I really aggressively started to figure out what was going on. So I went to my primary physician. That's the first person I had went to her for years, and I trusted her. So yeah, that's the first place I went. She ran a full extensive panel on me. We checked for MS, we checked for lupus, we checked for arthritis. Only thing she saw was low vitamin D, low platelet count, and I had some really high inflammatory markers, but she said, I don't know. So she sent me to other specialists. I went to at least 4 neurologists at this point. I went to arthritis specialists. I went to allergists. I went to internists. I went to gastroenterologists because I thought maybe traces of gluten or other foods were making this happen. No one could figure out what was wrong with me. So it just got to the point where they thought that it was in my head, and they started referring me to therapists at that point. And I knew that my symptoms were physical and it was not mental, and I didn't accept that. And so the next thing was they just gave me a general chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, which is just chronic pain that you have. And I didn't accept that answer. I didn't accept that I'm just hurting for no reason. I'm just having pain and weakness for no reason, and it's in my mind. I knew it wasn't in my mind. So that's when I was pretty depressed at that point, and I was just at home. Luckily, my husband, we lived together, and he took care of me, and he was very supportive during this phase, this point in my life where I was the lowest in my entire life. So all I did all day was just research diseases, just hour after hour. I just researched all my symptoms. I was crying and I just couldn't figure it out, and my family members even didn't believe me at that point. They're saying the tests are coming back normal, Ashley, there's nothing wrong, and they wanted me to, even doctors just told me, just work out, try to work through it, just try to get it off your mind. And I knew the fact that I cannot walk, and I'm having trouble breathing and just doing basic functions. My mind wasn't clear. I even started to have neurological symptoms where I couldn't put sentences together. I would have word swap. So instead of saying, for instance, the dog ran, I would say ran the dog. I was saying things in the wrong order. My memory was off. I just couldn't remember things like I could previously. And I knew that something was wrong. And that's when I started to research more bacteria, parasites, and things like that. I thought maybe I drank some bad water or something. I got a parasite, I don't know. And I came across Lyme's disease. And there is a whole list of symptoms. They're all over the place. They don't correlate at all. And I just knew that was what was going on with me. And that's when I really got more adamant about the testing. So I went back to my primary physician, and I demanded her to test me for Lyme's. So her first question was, did you get a bullseye rash? You would have known you got a bullseye rash. I let her know I did not get a bullseye rash, but at least 20 to 40% of people who get tested for Lyme's disease didn't get a bullseye rash. You're lucky if you get that bullseye rash, because that's an indicator to let you know that you got infected, and not everyone gets that. And I saw that in the research, and a lot of people who were diagnosed with Lyme's didn't get that. So I was very adamant. I wanted to get that test. I wanted her to test me for Lyme's disease, and she did. So the very first test she did was an ELISA test, which is just a general, the first step in the process is to get that one. Unfortunately, it's the most least accurate of all the tests. So of course it came back negative. So it just didn't make sense to me. So I did more research and I found out about that it wasn't reliable and you need to get a Western blot test. So I got the Western blot. That also came back negative. So now I'm like, okay, Ashley, you must really be crazy. So I started doing more research and I found out the Western blot test you can also get a false negative. Unfortunately, with Lyme's disease, it suppresses your immune system and you may not exhibit those markers on that test, those antibodies that show that you have the infection, which the test is done in bands. The bands are listed 31, 32, and different numbers of bands, and you have to get at least 5 bands to be clinically diagnosed with Lyme's disease. So I didn't get all 5 bands, and I just didn't trust the testing at that point. So I moved on and I found out about this lab called IGeneX, and they're the top testing center for Lyme's disease. Then my next step is how do I get my blood over to all the way in California to this lab. So I found me a Lyme's physician. I did some research and I found me a Lyme specialist in Northern Virginia, which is my doctor who I go to now, and I see her every 3 months and I work closely with her. So she immediately, I told her my symptoms and she said, that sounds like Lyme's. You could very well have Lyme's disease. And she took my blood and she put it in a tube, and they have their own kits. They can send you a kit. All you have to do is get your blood drawn and you send your blood to that lab, and they do their tests there. So while I was waiting for my results, I was getting pretty sick at that point. It takes at least 3 to 5 weeks to get your results back from that lab. So if things couldn't get any worse, during this period, I found out that I was pregnant. So just to top things off, I found out that I was pregnant. So I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know if I really had Lyme's yet. I hadn't got my results back. So I was really scared at this point. I wasn't working. My husband wasn't working. My fiance at the time, he wasn't working. So on top of the fact that I was sick, and if I did have Lyme's, I saw that you can pass that to your baby, and a lot of harmful things can happen inside the womb. They can have formalities, and a lot of bad things can happen to, they call them Lyme's babies, congenital Lyme's. And I just didn't want that to happen to her. So that's when we had made the decision that I was going to get an abortion, because I couldn't take care of this baby. I had Lyme's disease. I didn't want to pass that to her and have her go and suffer through, I could possibly have Lyme's disease, and I didn't want her to have to deal with that. So, I talked with my family members and they were very supportive about my decision. And so I made the appointment with Planned Parenthood to get an abortion. My husband was supportive for whatever I wanted to do. I was just very depressed, and I just want to say I was very happy with the level of empathy and how kind Planned Parenthood was, and very accommodating at this time. I think I made that appointment at least 3 times to get that abortion, and I just didn't feel right about it. And I would call and I would cancel, and they would be like, okay, that's perfectly fine. And I would make another appointment and make another appointment. But they were very understanding and they were very patient with me during this time, and they didn't pressure me. So I just want to say that about Planned Parenthood. I know there's a lot of things going on with Planned Parenthood. They're going to cut their funding, I think. And I just want to say I'm not pro abortion and I'm not against abortions. I feel that I'm pro-choice. I'll say that. And you don't know someone's situation. And unfortunately, I was placed in a situation where I was making a choice for my baby to not have her be sick with Lyme's. And that's why, I even seek, help from Planned Parenthood. And I just want to say how accommodating they were with me during this time. I finally made my last appointment. I just knew, okay, I made my appointment. I'm going to go in. I'm going to get this abortion. And everything was ready for the procedure. And then I got a call from my grandma, and she said, Ashley, everything's going to be fine. The baby's going to be fine. Just have faith. I'm a Christian. Just have faith in God. And just trust that everything is going to be all right. So that's what I did. I walked out, and I let them know I'm not going to go through with this, and I appreciate all of your help and understanding. And they were very very kind. I'll just say that they were very understanding, and they said all right, and they refunded me, and that was it. So I think about a week later I got my results back from my Lyme's doctor, and as we thought, I did have Lyme's disease. Hygienics uses bands that were taken off of the Western blot testing. So that's why they took them off, because there was a vaccination for Lyme's disease, but they don't sell that vaccination anymore. So they took it off because people would have false positives if they had the vaccination. But I didn't have the vaccination, so I shouldn't have showed positive markers for those antibodies, if that makes sense. So that shouldn't have been removed from the testing, because some people only show those bands. So yes, I did have Lyme's disease, and I was currently getting antibiotics for treatment. So I was pregnant at this point, so I couldn't do the full Lyme's treatment. I took some pregnancy safe antibiotics at this point, and also some supplements to support my system. Lyme's is a living organism, and it wants to survive and thrive just like you. So you have to kill a living organism without killing yourself. And in my case, killing myself and harming and killing my baby. So I had to take a slew of supplements. I took about 4 antibiotics at that point. And surprisingly, I had a fairly easy pregnancy. The only thing that happened at the end of my pregnancy, I got preeclampsia, which I don't know if that was related to Lyme's or not. It is common for women for first-time pregnancies to get preeclampsia, and it did happen at the end of my pregnancy. So luckily everything was fine. She wasn't born, I think she was only born 2 weeks early, so she was all right. And I immediately got her tested. We got the cord blood, and I sent that off to get her tested for Lyme's disease, and she came back negative. So I did take antibiotics through the majority of my pregnancy, which is one reason why I feel that it didn't transfer to her. I also didn't breastfeed. I heard that it was safe to breastfeed, but I didn't breastfeed very long with her because I didn't want to risk it. I didn't know. So she is healthy. Her name is Zoe. She is 1 year old, and she is thriving at this point. Very energetic, hyper. I'll probably get her tested again when she turns maybe 3, just to make sure everything is okay. But as of right now, she hasn't exhibited any symptoms. And if she does, and if she is positive for Lyme's, we will figure it out if we come to that road. And now I kind of have a roadmap of how to go about it. So yeah, so I had a baby. What happened after that? So me and my husband moved in with my mom. So we moved into my parents' basement. Not an ideal situation after getting my first big time job, and now I'm kind of back living with my parents, my husband and my baby. Not the best situation, but I felt it was necessary. That way I could, I stayed home with her first year, and just to do a whole year on treatment without working and having stress, and stress seemed to induce my symptoms more. And I also lost a lot of weight when I was working just from stress and the Lymes. I think I had even got down to like 102 pounds. So I'm small frame anyway, but that was very low weight for me. So I didn't want to get back to that point. So now she is 1. She goes to childcare. I have a full-time job now. And yeah, so I'm finally kind of just getting things back on track from that. But I just wanted to share my story because there could be someone else out there who has Lyme and don't know how to go about it. I'm very lucky to have family members who were supportive during this time and helped me financially, helped me mentally, just were very supportive. Also, the fact that, you know, where I lived, I even had a Lyme's doctor. I'm very grateful to have someone who was willing to treat me. There are a lot of doctors in other countries, it's very prevalent in Europe, where they don't want to give you antibiotics, and a lot of people don't have the funds to pay for the medication because doctors, Western medicine tends not to even believe that in chronic Lyme's disease. They want to give you maybe 6 weeks of antibiotics and kind of send you on your way if you test positive for Lyme's. But if you've had the tick and you've had the infection for a while, you are going to need longer than 6 weeks of treatment to cure that infection. And it is not, the testing methods are poor, and doctors aren't very educated on that. Even infectious disease doctors, they tend to go by the evidence from the CDC, but the evidence is also not accurate. There's so many cases of Lyme's that aren't reported, and it's a really big issue. And I just wanted to try to help someone else out and let them know what I did to get better. And I am better at this point. I'm working. I'm back working out, and I'm definitely feeling better. I do have my bad days. I'm not 100% cured of Lyme's. I'm not going to say that. I think I still have a little ways to go with treatment, but I'm definitely a lot better. And a lot of doctors claim that you can't get rid of chronic Lyme's disease, but I don't believe that. And I will cure Lyme's disease. I have to believe that. I have to believe that I can get through this. And yeah, we just have to stick together, and we have to demand that insurance companies pay for our medication and our treatment. And there are more studies being done now. It's more prevalent. I think it's starting to become quite an epidemic, and we're getting some attention now about the disease. So how can you protect yourself from Lyme's disease? Can you even get Lyme's disease? Yes, you can. So it's very important that you do protect yourself this summer. I know that the weather is nice. You guys are going to want to be outdoors more. Festivals, barbecues, walking your dog, all of that outdoorsy things. It's important that you guys do take the proper measures to make sure that you are protecting yourselves from ticks. So you can actually spray your clothes with DEET. Ticks do not like DEET. It's better for adults than children. I think DEET is harmful for children, but there are some tick repellents that are safe for kids. I will link both down below. So yeah, you want to make sure that you spray yourself with DEET. And if you are going to be outdoors, when you come in the house, check your dog for ticks. You know, dogs carry tons of ticks. Also checking your hair for ticks, check your kids for ticks, check their hair. Your clothes, put them in the dryer when you come from outdoors, and burn off any of the bugs if there are any. And if you are bitten by a tick, make sure that you get the tweezers and you pull the tick from the head, not from the butt, because the butt, you'll squeeze the bacteria into your body. So you want to squeeze it from the top of the tick, the head of the tick, and pull it straight out, and you get that tick tested and make sure that it is not an infected tick. And they can be very small. They can be very small, guys. So it is important that if you are bit by a tick that you just get it tested. Don't even take that risk, because it takes 24 hours to go from only needing 6 weeks of antibiotics to possibly needing lifelong treatment. So just do it. Just do it, please. Just take my advice. Just be proactive on that. So yeah, and I'll also link some other information down below about symptoms. If you think that you may have Lyme's disease, find you a Lyme Literate doctor in your area. Even if you have to travel, find a Lyme Literate doctor. They'll be able to give you the utmost care, and they will specialize in Lyme's disease. I'll also link down the Lymes testing down below, and just as much information as I can for you guys. Yeah. And to show you Zoe, this is my daughter Zoe. Zoe, say hi. So she is 18 months as of now, and she is going to college next week, aren't you? Say hi. Blow kiss. Mwah. Mwah. One more time. Mwah. Mwah. Thank you. Ooh, yeah, you like it? See you later. See you later. Cute. So I'm going to put some links down below where you guys can support Lyme's disease, and I'm also going to, if you want to see a video about my protocol, the antibiotics I take, all my supplements, my diet, and diet was a huge part of getting me better. I do want to say that diet is such a crucial part of the treatment plan. So if you want to know what I'm doing as far as that, and yeah, I think that it's so much information, I'll need to create a separate video just to talk about my treatment plan with Lyme. So if you want to see that, let me know. I will create that video for you. Also, if you have any questions about Lyme's and pregnancy, what I did during my pregnancy, anything about depression, what I did to help battle depression and anxiety. I still have a little bit of anxiety even now, but it's not as bad as it was. So if you want advice about that, I can also create a video for that. Yeah, just any information. I know when I first found out I had Lyme's, I just was very desperate. I contacted everyone I could, YouTube videos, just people, blogs and vlogs that I saw, just contacting people who were treating it, just trying to get as much information as I could. It's not a lot of information out there about treating Lyme, so if I can help someone as much as I can, I'm not an expert, but I can definitely share what I know. If you have any questions for me, I'm actually going to link down my email below. You can email me. I'll try to answer your questions. So hopefully there'll be bright things to come for me. I will be creating more videos, fashion, and just I'm going to try to create more vlogs. I am working full-time as a nutritionist, so I'm not at home to create as much content as I would like, but I definitely want to get more into the videos. I was having a lot of bad days at one point, more bad days than good days, and I just wanted to make sure that the videos I made were of quality content. But I'm definitely going to try to make more videos for you guys and just give you an insight of what's going on, how I'm getting my ish, back together, and how I'm getting myself back on track. And so it's a lot of great things to come, and yeah. So thanks for watching my channel, and thanks for hearing my story. It's a very passionate subject for me and very close, and I definitely wanted to share my story, and I hope that I helped someone today. So I hope you have a good day, and I see you in my next video. Bye.